basically going to be looking at how to make a new item in Wikidata in order to be able to create a Wikidata item queue number and be able to put it into binomia so that you could then link the specimens that that person has collected to them. In relation to binomia tracker, the Wikidata item relates to dead people only. Obviously, Wikidata items can be living and dead people, but for binomia tracker in particular, that we use Wikidata items for deceased people. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and I'm going to talk you through I've just done notes with sort of screenshots, which the link of which I've already shared in the chat. So if you're interested, you can go look at that and hopefully you can get through. So if you want to get in edit Wikidata, anyone can edit. I don't think you have to have an account, but I'd highly recommend you getting one. Firstly, because instead of if you don't have an account, you'll be sharing your IP address. And if you create an account, you can actually be even more anonymous than that. And if you wanted to continue being anonymous. But also, if you have an account, you basically establish your bona fides, even if you're have a pseudonym, you're establishing your bona fides for the community. And it's Wikidata's crowdsourced sort of activity. And because it's openly and available and to be edited by anyone, there is vandalism that happens. So if you've got an account, it sort of ensures that people realize that if you make a mistake, it's not deliberate vandalism, you've just made an error, and they can come along and help correct it and help you. So I'd highly recommend, if you're going to be doing a significant amount of Wikidata editing and creating new items, to actually create an account. So in order to create an account, you go into Wikidata, and in my document, I've got the link there, and you can, on the top right-hand side, there's a create a new account button that you push, and then you just follow the steps. And then when you create that account, you'll get your own personal user page, which you can edit. And I've given you an example of just showing you what my user page looks like. I've basically got a very simple introduction to myself. And then if you actually look at my user page, I go ahead, and that's where I keep all my notes, all my reminders, information on what I'm working on. It's just my page. I can put whatever I like in it. Now,
Siobhan, sorry, Siobhan, could we get you to increase the screen size that you've got there?
You certainly can.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I hope. Is that working? Tell me that's working. Come on.
Maybe it won't work. What is that? Are you on a Mac, right?
Yeah.
If you're on a Mac, is that like Command Plus or something? Does that work?
Yeah, I'm trying and it's not doing it. I wonder if, hang on, give me a second. I might be able to do it.
I think you do it in View with Google Doc, under View.
Okay.
The third, no,
yeah,
wait.
I got it. Here we go.
Somewhere, yeah, there it is.
How about that? Is that better?
Much better. Even more if you could.
Even more if I can. I certainly can. Where'd it go? We'll go up to 200 maximum. There you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Sorry about that. So as I said, you can look at my user page. It's up. If it's your own user page, you can do what you like to it. It's your user page. No one really cares. The main reason to put something there is because when people see you edit something, they can click on that edit or the link to you, and it will take them to your user page. And if they're investigating what you're doing, it will again establish bona fides in the community because it's a community project. Now, at the moment, Wikidata has about approximately 11,000 regular editors. And when I say regular, I mean they make 5 edits or more a month. And once you've got an account, start editing. Now, what we're here for is because a lot of the time people want to create a new item in order to get the person a Wikidata item number so they can get them into binomia to link their specimens to their to the identifier. And the way you do this is you go into Wikidata and you press on the left-hand side, there's a create new item button, and this will automatically bring up this create new item template. Now, I tend to edit in English, but there's a drop-down arrow here, and you can change it to any language. There's about 300 languages you can edit in. So I'd be surprised if your language wasn't there. You put a label for the person, and I try and put their full name in this. But if you only know their initials and their last name, that's fine too, so long as you've got enough information to make this person notable for Wikidata. And I'll show you how to do that when I actually go through. I've got 3 examples that I'm going to run through to show you actually how to create an item live later. You also do a description. The way I normally write the description of the person is their country that they're a citizen of, their full name, and then I put their birth and their death dates in brackets after their name. And the reason I do this is because this description is what comes up when you're searching for people, or if people are importing a whole data set into Wikidata, they can put it in this tool called Mix and Match, and Wikidata editors come along and match the Wikidata item to the information in that data set. And this is what can come up in the tool that helps you do that matching, that shows the description. So it can improve your ability to actually match the Wikidata item to the person in the external database. So that's why I think the description is really important. And lastly, the aliases, or also known as, are extremely important as well. So if they've published under their initials and their last name, make sure that goes under there. If they've published under their first name, initial, last name, make sure it goes underneath in this alias things. It just makes it a lot easier for when people are actually trying to find this person again. And then you press, sorry, I'll scroll up again, then you can press the create button, and that creates the new item. Now the standard ontology, I've gone a bit over the top here, but these are all the properties and the item, the queue numbers that you can add in order to a Wikidata item. So for example, it goes, the person who'll have a queue number is an instance of human. And this is the instance of human is always used as the first thing, and then it will generate suggestions as to other statements you can make. And as you can see, there's a lot of things you can put in a Wikidata item for a person. And I've given you a couple of examples in this document. Florence Bailey, for example, or Willamette Cockrell, they've got items that just gives you something to look at, to see how this is done and to base your work on. Once you're making statements in Wikidata, you should always reference them. So for example, if you're saying this person was a resident in Locust Grove, there's a reference to state and why that statement is true. It supports that statement. Another one is perhaps this person is a significant person to Alice Eastwood. They've been a correspondent, and then there's a reference URL that supports that statement. And finally, the next important thing is the external identifiers. Now, Wikidata does have a notability criteria. It's a lot lower than Wikipedia. Basically, if there's any sort of external identifier that makes this item notable enough and not to get reverted or deleted by other editors. So I regard external identifiers as not just being important because they link out to other databases. It's important to keep, it means the item actually stays in Wikidata. People aren't going to come along and revert it or delete it. The good thing about this is that Binomia Tracker has its own identifier. So you can, as soon as you add people into Wikidata, you can then go and take the QID, put them into Binomia Tracker, and it automatically generates a Binomia Tracker ID. You come back and you put that into Wikidata, and that means that the Wikidata item won't, there's no way it'll get deleted once it's got an external identifier attached to it. It just won't. But there are other identifiers. For example, the VIAS ID is very important. That's the National Library's aggregator of library information. There's the Library of Congress ID. For us, the BHL Creator ID is very important. Any of these that you can add is very, very, very helpful. And then if I can't teach you in this amount of time how to edit, there's also YouTube videos on how to create new items and how to add statements and verification for those statements. So those are 2 links to 2 YouTube videos so that you can come back and have a look as well. So let's go on to examples of people that I'm going to edit. Now I got these through this article in BHL. I basically just looked up bats and collectors, and this is one that came up. It does already have its own Wikidata item, this scholarly article that I've put in there so that you can reference this article for it. And one of the people I found in these other historic comments is this guy here, David Dyson. Has his birth and his death date, and he's a prolific scientific collector, and this is what it says about him. So I'm just going to go and I've already checked he's not in Wikidata already. I did that last night, and so I'm actually just going to go and get these out the way, go up here, and I'm actually just going to go and create new item.
You might want to do the Control+ thing on this one too again, if you can, Siobhan, or
yep.
Command+ or whatever it is on a Mac. Yeah, there you go. That's
I got it.
Yeah, yep, that's better.
Yep,
oh yeah,
cool.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. So I'll put him in there, David Dyson, and his description is, I can't even remember now, British, and then I'll get it. Okay, so he's a British scientific collector, and I'll put his birth and death dates, about like that, and I'll put D Dyson as his alias, and then I'm just going to press create. And this is what you can get. I'm going to add a statement here, and you always, for a person, go instance of human, and you can see it pops up with suggestions, and I'm just going to publish that. And then what happens, because I've put this statement instance of human, it's going to suggest stuff. Sex or gender, male. Now I put all my statements in first, and then I go and reference them, because you can reuse the reference if you've got that preference. Occupation, I'll put scientific collector. Date of birth, which we decided is 1823. And that little arrow there is telling me it's a citation needed constraint. It's telling me they really want a citation for a birth date. And that's fine, because I'm going to give it one, but I don't see the point in doing the same thing again and again and again when I can just do it once and then copy the citation over. Just copy. David, and it's the male given name rather than anything else. Citizenship. Now there are several United Kingdoms. We're looking for the 1801 to 1927. Place of birth, I don't know. Family name is Dyson. You can see there were several there, British Technology Company, Lunar Impact Crater, etc. I'm looking for the family name. So you've got to make sure you pick the right one. But it's relatively simple once you get used to it. Date of death, I can't remember. Sorry about scrolling. Hope you're not feeling too sick. Now the date of death is the one we do need to make sure that he is actually, can actually be pulled into Binomia Tracker. Or the date of birth has to be, I think it's 120 years, is it? Yeah, 120 years. If you've got a date of birth that's 120 years ago, you can put them in manually. If it's a date of death, you can put them in manually. Okay, now that's enough to start off with. So now I'm going to add the reference. And for the, let's go back to my document, what did I say? For birth, death dates, name, etc., I got it from this one. So this is the paper that I found his birth and death dates in. So I'm not sure whether I actually ended up putting this in Wikidata. I don't think I did. I shall double check. Yes, I did. Okay, so this is the article that I got all my information from for him. So I can actually, sorry, it's too big for me. There you go. Copy that. Copy the Q number for this. So
Siobhan, you had to create this item.
Yeah.
So you had to find the article, and then you had to create an item. And
you don't necessarily have to do this. I mean,
right.
This is what I do. This is what I do all the time. I create items for things all the time.
Yeah.
But what you can do, I'll show you the alternative ways for doing things. I'm going to show you the stated in property for a reference. You can go stated in, and the stated in property is used only for Wikidata items. So if it's stated in a book, in an edition of a book, and that edition of a book is in Wikidata, you can use that item for that edition of a book for the stated in. However, if it's not in Wikidata, I'm just going to publish that. If it's not in Wikidata, what you can do is use a URL. And so I could have, if it wasn't in Wikidata, for example, I'd use the DOI. So I'd go back. Can you see how it's got a DOI there? I don't know whether you can see it. There you go. It's got a DOI there. So if I hadn't have put in it Wikidata, I could do DOI and put the DOI in. And you actually just do it the number like that. Or if I don't have a DOI, I could have done the URL. So where are we? Go back in here, and instead I could go URL, and it's reference URL that you're looking for. And then instead of that, I would put that. But with reference URL, you do want to say retrieved. You should have a retrieved statement, and then put the date that you've actually retrieved the URL. But in this case, I'll just remove that.
Hear me? My earphones have just gone. I'm just going to take them off. Hang on. Yeah, hopefully you can still hear me. So I've got the stated in and added the reference. Now I've got it so that I can, actually I'll cancel that. I've got it so I can copy this, and then I can say, just insert the reference. Oh, sorry. See how this has got a cannot save? What you have to do after you've put all the statements in is actually refresh the page before you copy the reference. So I'm just going to do that. Okay. And I'll go back to wherever I put it. Oh, I've lost it. There we go. There's the reference for it. And now I can copy that and then just go insert. Come on. There we go. So we've got references for that lot and the fact he's a scientific collector. Done. So that's the item created. Now, again, I'll try and go slow so you're not sick. Up the top, taker's QID. And now I'm going to go to binomia. And so I'm just going to move that chat down so I can actually see what I'm doing. Then I can go help others. And then I can go, this is me manually adding him. Add someone. And I'm putting the Wikidata QID in there. I'm just going to go add. And there he is. He's now added to Binomia Tracker. So I'm going to go up there. Now the Binomia Tracker, because we've put him in via Wikidata, his identifier is the Wikidata item number. So I copy that again and I go back because I don't want this deleted. This is still doesn't have any external identifiers. So I go back, scroll down to the bottom, add another statement, binomia ID, add the Q, and for database ones, you only have to put the reference, retrieved, and then you can publish that. And so now this item is safe because it's got an external identifier. And then we can go back to binomial tracker, and you can start working out whether he actually, whether this David Dyson is actually this David Dyson. Now, I haven't done any research about this or looked at this, so I don't know. So I'm not going to make any attributions. But what I will do is make this public so that anybody can find this information. Normally, before I do this, I like actually attributing several specimens to him before I do it. But for this particular, I'll just make that public. For this particular presentation, I'm going to do it automatically. And so he's now there, and I know he's a scientific collector because that article has told me he is. That article actually lists some of the specimens. They may not be in GBIF. So none of these may be him, but he is definitely a specimen collector, and hopefully one day someone will put in to GBIF the specimen data that you can then link to him. Now, I've got another one. There are more information, and look, he's got a BHL creator ID that I could have done. So I'll just add that in too. And there's lots of BHL identifiers. There's the page, bibliography, and there's the creator ID. That's the one I want. Again, retrieve for the external identifiers. And I'm actually going to refresh that page, and I'll show you what it looks like. So there's the identifier section. It automatically creates it once you refresh the page. And these are the statement sections with the actual statements about the person.
So Siobhan, by external, you meant external to Wikipedia. External to Wikidata.
Wikidata is an external identifier hub. So it links out to numerous, multiple data sets and databases. Mm-hmm. So for this particular guy, you could have not just these two, you could have publication databases, you could have VIAF, you could have genealogy databases about his family. There's things like Burke's peerage, things in there. There's, you name it, there's all sorts in there. There's databases about museums, say he's donated stuff to the British Museum. It may be that he has a British Museum identifier. Say he did artworks. There might be artist databases that have him. Say he's a photographer. There'd be photographic databases as well. So, and I've seen, if you go look at Darwin's got masses and masses of external identifiers in Wikidata.
So Claire asked, if you have a Wikipedia account, is this different from a Wikidata?
No, if you have a Wikipedia account, use your username or your identifier and your password, and you will get into Wikidata. You can log in that way. Any other questions? Because I can go do another one if you want. People can open their mic if they just want to ask anything. In that case, if there's no questions, just sing out, because I'll now go do Francis Charles Sarg.
Siobhan, one question. So anybody can edit these, right?
Yep. Anyone can edit them. Yep. Anyone in the world. Yep.
Okay. So they can they can also not only add information, but they can also delete information.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep. They can delete statements. Yes. Yes. The thing about it though, if you look in, if you go up the top here, for any item, you've got a view history. So I'll show you what it looks like. These are all the edits that I've done. So you can see here, I've created a new item, put in instance of, occupation, given name. So if you can always go back and you can undo anything that you've done or anything other people have done as well. If there's been vandalism, you can go back to the vandalism, even if it's in the middle of something, and revert that and take it back to that original, how it was before the vandalism happened or before someone made an error. It's always, you can always, you're never going to break it. If you make an error, you're never going to break it. You can always go back and undo it. Yeah. And there's always a history of it as well, history of the edits that's done on that particular item.
Are there other questions? And there's another one in the chat, Siobhan, that I thought maybe we should.
Yep.
Raj wants to know, how do we combine multiple pages of the same person? I don't know if you have,
Okay.
Raj,
Yep.
do you have an example that we could give to Siobhan and she could show that to us? Do you have 2 Wikidata pages you know are the same person?
No, I was trying to create one for my own. Then I realized there's 2 of me in the same page. So I'm assuming that that may happen to other people.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
first off, editing yourself isn't the done thing. You might be able to get away with it, and you certainly can't get away with it in Wikipedia. You'll be immediately reverted. In Wikidata, you might be able to get away with it if you back up your statements with references, but it's not as a community, it's frowned upon. If you do want to merge items, you need to make sure that you've got this bit here, the more bit and the merge with. But in order to do that, you've got to turn it on via your preferences. So up the top here.
So Siobhan, so I'm sorry to interrupt. So if you look up, can you just show us? Let's just look. And so Raj, you have 3, and so I think were you saying Siobhan, he can't do it? It's bad form for him.
Yeah, it is very bad form.
But it wouldn't be bad form for you to do it, correct?
No, I can do it. Put the item numbers
his name in the chat. So if
okay.
you search it,
yeah,
we can use a real example, and Raj, you'll get it sorted today.
Cool.
Okay.
Because after this, I'll be training my team in my university. So they are going to do the same thing.
Okay.
All right. So all 3 of these are you.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll take this Wikidata item. This for the second one.
This is the correct one.
Yeah, that's all right. They'll all be combined. They'll all be merged.
Okay, cool.
So, so you go down, merge with. So I've gone to the first item and I've gone to the second item and taken its QID, going back to the first one, and I'm just going to go merge, and it will merge into the one that's the earliest mention of you. So merge. Okay. So I'm just going to wait for that to happen. Now I'm going to refresh that. So I've done 1, and now I'm going to go to the 3rd one and get that Q item again as well. Copy and do another merge. And again, it's going to go to the earliest mention of you. Merge. Okay. Now you can see that you are now, it's now all merged. So your ORCID ID, Scopus and Zoobank IDs are all there.
Oh,
There's
okay.
very little on you in there.
Yes, this is the first time I'm actually looking at my own Wikidata page.
Yeah. And I don't think you don't have, I'm just going to, sorry about making people feel sick, but I'm just going to scroll down and see if there's anything else about you anywhere. You've got a species page, wiki species page. So let's go look at that, see what it says. So that actually tells us where you work. So I can go copy that, go back to your item and go employer. Oh, sorry if I spell it right. There we go.
Cool.
And publish that. Now, I don't normally rely on just this wiki species page. I would actually go away and find an independent reference to support that statement, but I'm not going to do that right now.
Or something.
Yeah. And then the other thing we can do is, put your, mammologist in there, because it seems funny that we're describing you like that and it's not as an occupation. And do you collect specimens? Do you collect scientific specimens?
Yeah.
Yep. We'll add that as well. You got any hobbies?
Hobbies.
Hobbies.
Oh,
Because occupation for Wikidata isn't just about your paid work. It can be if you're known for, if you're say you're an amateur photographer or a photographer, your main job is say a mammalogist, but you're a fabulous photographer as well, and your photos have been published or your photos are being collected by people, or you know, there's a way to make linked open data about your hobbies, then you put that in there. I mean, if you go look at my Wikidata item, you'll see I'm put in there as a Wikimedian. I'm not paid to do this, but it's listed as my occupation. But if you look, how they define occupation in Wikidata is much wider than just paid work.
okay. Cool.
Okay.
What about aliases? Raj?
Okay. good idea.
Aliases, it can be, this is my name. Sometimes if you look at journals, they either put me as JV Kumaran or VK Jayaraj. So that's why, yeah, that's the reason sometimes I have double accounts, double double.
Well, in that case, in this particular case, please go in and edit yourself.
Yeah, I've done that.
Also, no, that'll be fine by me.
I've done that.
I can't imagine the community having a problem with you going in and putting, you know, also known as is, because it helps us.
Good.
But, and also please, in your ORCID ID, let's have a look at your ORCID ID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So add all those also known as in your ORCID ID, and then we can reuse them.
You're saying if we go to ORCID, we can put our aliases in our ORCID account.
Yeah.
And then Bionomia and Wikidata would know about those?
No, well, the person editing that would go check. I mean, if it was me, the way I do it, you know, I would always go check and then add in as many as I can. My automatic reaction when I'm editing an item anyway is to just put initials and last name like that. I always do that. And sometimes I'll even go, if I found it in a journal and they've published it like this, I'll put that.
Put it that way. Yeah.
Because you've got to think like the computer actually sucking the data. Some systems won't pick that up as meaning that. So I just
Elias just now when you were talking with Deborah that this has multiple names. So I think that's the same situation.
The same situation.
Question? A quick question. Why is Wikipedia and Wikidata so against you doing your own? Because I can't imagine for a lot of people why anyone would want to do.
No,
you know?
I just know for me, I've backed it up with references and it's been reverted. It's just how pedantic, it's a community, it's how pedantic some people are about it. I personally don't mind people going in and editing their Wikidata item so long as, I mean, don't do it for your Wikipedia article. That's a complete no-no when it comes to your
we did, and it went mad.
But your Wikidata item, if you put a statement in there and you've got a reference that's not you, say not your CV or something, it's your employer saying that, or it's a good citation for that fact, I personally don't have a problem with it, but some people in the community do. But that's not to say that you can't do it. You know, do it and just expect it to get reverted, and if it doesn't, you're lucky.
So I mean, some things, it seems to me that only yourself will be interested enough to do it, you know, like, so you have to go through the game of getting somebody else to do it, do you? How does that?
Well, take a risk because Wikidata is being reused more and more. I mean, it's just the growth is exponential and the use of this huge linked open data set is amazing. So, and you'd be surprised how much can actually be added. I mean, I know I'm doing it all day. I love doing this sort of stuff and finding people and adding. I love particular linking co-collectors. So if you go back to, where's the example I was going to do? I'll just go up, and it was, was it Willamette? I bet it was Willamette. Yeah, there we go. don't think I've actually added hers in. There might be one. So at the moment, I've been going to town on her at the moment, just having a lovely time playing with her data. But you can see there's stuff that isn't referenced. I've yet to find references for this stuff. I mean, obviously females should be relatively easy, but I also like adding in if they're co-collectors, obviously a spouse, what she actually does. The fact she's a naturalist hasn't been referenced, but I'm leaving it there because it's accurate. Saying the fact that her field of work, entomology, employer, member, educated at, and I thought I had put it in there. It must be the other guy. He named he's a correspondent. I did it yesterday, so I can't remember his name, but she wrote to him and he wrote to her. So in his item, I've put that she's a significant person correspondent because I'm wanting to document that relationship. And I've been doing it quite a bit with co-collectors as well. If they're in, say, the Harvard Index of Botany as a collecting group, then I've got an identifier to create a new item for that collecting group, like two people going out on expeditions together. But often there's not an identifier for me to be able to do that. So instead, I use the significant person, put the other person's name in there, and then do a relationship of the object has role, co-collector. And that way you can query this data and eventually be able to show all the people who are the co-collector of this person. And you can show the personal relationships. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, I don't know how long I've got.
Well, technically you were done at 2:30, but we're enjoying ourselves, Siobhan. We do have to restart at 3 for the main meeting.
Right. I do want to show you the query service. So once you've got the data in Wikidata, you can actually query the data. And this is some that I've done recently or created. Well, other people have created and I've just changed it slightly. So this is, I've asked Wikidata, can you show me all the species of bat you've got with an image, if available?
Make a little bigger if you can.
Bigger?
I don't think you can.
Yeah, so that's what the query looks like.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm just going to run it, and I'm going to have to go out because it's massive. That's what it can look like. These are the names, the Wikidata items, and the pictures. But if I use this, I can actually go down and get an image grid. And so this should bring up all the images in Wikidata of the bats, Wikicommons of the bat species. Well, the images that have been added to Wikidata for these species.
Woohoo.
So that's one query. For another query, we've got, this is one that I quite like because I'm working on this.
So Siobhan, quickly while you do this, the question is, are those images then have to be CC0 or CC by default? So
CC0, CC by, or CC by share alike. Yep, okay. They have to be open.
Okay.
Open, and they have to be put into Wikicommons first, which is the image repository for all the images used in Wikipedia and Wikidata. And once it's in Wikicommons, then you can add that image to Wikidata. So nice. Say if you look at Willamette's one, if you go up the top, you see there's an image of her there. There you see image, this property. And then you can add the image JPEG from Wikicommons, and you can actually click on that link and it will take you to the Wikicommons. See, there's Wikicommons there, Wikicommons image, and the image in Wikicommons.
Thanks.
Okay, so this was, I will just show you the query if I can. Oh, chat's always in the way. Oh, sorry, I've got 3 things in the way. Let's see, edit Sparkle. Okay, so this is a really complex query. Increase the size. And I've asked it, this was created for me. I've basically asked for female botanists and botanical collectors born pre-1900, sorted by the number of site links in the Wiki universe with some related info. And when you run it, might take a while, it gives you this sort of information of their QID, the label of the Wikidata item, their occupation, the number of site links. So Beatrix Potter's the highest, unsurprisingly, because she collected mushrooms, fungi. Her article, date, birth, death, and bloodhound item number, but she doesn't have a Harvard Index of Botanists ID that's been put into Wikidata. So you can see, once you've got this data in Wikidata, you can do some quite interesting queries. And did I have anyone? Oh, the last thing I wanted to show you is Scholia tool. And you guys might be more interested in this for yourselves. This is a dead collector who I put in, who was, I added him in to get this query. Basically, Scholia has about 10 different Sparkle queries, and this is just the front end that shows you the results. So this is a naturalist, I'll put all his papers there, who published some of them. You can see he died in 1898, but he's publishing in 2009. That's because the people who upload the metadata about these old publications have uploaded the date it was actually published on the internet rather than the date it was actually published by him in a scientific journal. And I've made sure his link, sorry, I'm going to scroll down quite fast so don't look for a second. And then you can start getting things like publications per year. So this is actually when he was publishing. And this bit here shows you that some of the metadata is wrong in Wikidata for this because it's been sourced from aggregators who put the wrong publication date on. This gives you a Sparkle query that tells you the number of pages. And this will only happen if you actually tell them the pages in the item, in the Wikidata item. Gives you topics. Gives you topics of the authored works. Shows the works matrix. Venue statistics. And you can also do a co-author graph. So this shows all his co-authors that are in Wikidata. And you can actually do this for yourself. If you have a Wikidata item and you've been linked to your publications, so let's go back. Where is it? Where's Scholia? There's Scholia. Sorry, look away. I'm going to scroll up really fast again. So I will search. And this is running Sparkle queries now to see if it doesn't look like any of his articles are matched. Has anyone got anyone in? I'm just trying to think who would be good.
Can you do, oh, it's got to be a queue number. It can't be like Sandy Knapp.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Let's try you.
Oh my goodness. I am in there.
Yeah. So you've got a queue, you've definitely got a queue item.
Yeah.
And so some publications, obviously not everything will be in here and, you know, it's good if it is, but running the query now, obviously not many pages have been put, that data hasn't been in there, but there's your topics that you've published on. Authored works, matrix, venue statistics, so lots of bioscience, zoo keys, biodiversity information, co-author graph, there you go. And I love this. This is one of my favorite queries. And then it gives you a map of where your co-authors are.
Oh, that's cool.
Other locations. Timeline of when it was. Academic tree, I don't know what that does. Citation statistics, mostly cited. Again, this is because you can have a cites property in Wikidata. So if you write a paper and Deb's paper is in Wikidata and it cites other papers, that's other property data you can put in there. And so it all interlinks together. So it's linked open data, citations by year, citing authors, tells you who cites their stuff, and then associated images. Have you not got an image, Deb?
Again, you don't add stuff for yourself, right? I don't know.
Oh no, you can add stuff in WikiCommons.
The weirdest part
in WikiCommons.
Well, Gil's a co-author with me on paper, so that's why his picture's there.
I wonder who took that photo.
And Florida State, I wonder. And Florida State University is, you know, where I've been affiliated for a long time. So I don't know why that guy's picture at the bottom left. I have no idea why that picture.
Oh, that would be because citizen science is something. I don't know.
I don't either.
Sometimes they pull stuff up. Maybe, used it in a.
So
presentation stuff.
So we maybe
Yeah,
have
so-
about five or 6 minutes before we should. wrap
Okay,
up.
well, that's basically the end of my presentation, unless someone has any other questions.
I read a question
So
about the,
this information that I see.
Wait. So wait a second. So wait, hang 1 second. I can't see who else has questions or who has. Does somebody who hasn't had a chance to ask a question yet have one? Could we maybe do that?
Sure.
Christiana, do you want to pipe up? You have a question?
Yes, please. I sent a link.
Yeah.
About bocage. And
Right. I just want to interrupt to what I went.
Yeah.
Is it about Wikidata or is it about Bionomia?
no, it's because in Binomia, you
Mhm.
have a link that goes to Wikidata.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
when I go to the Wikidata, in the list of the identifiers, we don't
Yeah.
have the binomial. So I wanted to ask if we can, if you go down for all the
Yeah.
the
Wait,
identifiers.
I'm going to scroll fast.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just, in this case, I couldn't reach it. Yeah, as you see, you
Yeah,
don't
I
have
can't see. Yeah, okay, so this is easy.
Okay, so.
Binomial ID, and the binomial ID is actually the QID, because if you go back and look at him, he's been brought into Binomia via this Wikidata item. So it's just, you just go up and you add the QID,
Okay.
and then you add
This is
retrieve, the date you've retrieved it, and you publish.
okay.
Sorted.
The number is the thing that I was wondering if. Okay, thanks.
And if you find two, that means you need to merge, as in you go away and you link and you come back and you realize that there's actually two of them. That's when and they're the same person and you're 100% sure they're the same person. That's when you merge them. But even if you make a mistake merging, I've shown you can go into the history and you can undo it.
So any now other questions? Because I heard two voices. I heard Burton, please, your turn.
I had a question about merging. So someone edits one of the original files, the merge file is automatically updated. Is that correct?
When you merge files in Wikidata, it's automatically updated in Wikidata. It happens because you've merged them in Wikidata. The problem is when people use the Wikidata items and pull them out into external databases. So for example, Wikidata items are used in the Library of Congress. They're added. Now, if someone has used one Wikidata item in the Library of Congress, that won't necessarily be the best item, but there's always what's referred to as a redirect. So even if you click on it in the Library of Congress to be taken to Wikidata, the Wikidata, because there's a redirect, will direct you to the best item that's already been merged, the one that has all the information. But the Library of Congress, it's up to the Library of Congress to go back and sort of scrape that information from Wikidata and update their own external databases, because it's all interlinked, but you want to make sure that you don't keep it stable, you keep refreshing in order to get the best data. I hope I've explained that okay.
So can I interject about what happens in Bionomia then if you've got like multiple people whose accounts in Wikidata have been merged?
Yeah.
Well, thankfully the Wikidata community is extremely helpful on this front and provided me with a query that I use on a nightly basis. And so I ask Wikidata, show me all the merged accounts that I know of in Bionomia. And then I get a programmatic list of those. And then behind the scenes, I will then refresh with a new Wikidata item and reattribute all the specimens to that new Wikidata item without anyone having to do anything. So that's all fully automated.
Wow.
And that should be the way it should be happening for all external databases who use Wikidata items. Yeah.
And there were other questions, or because I heard multiple voices earlier when were there others? Is that it? Cool.
Now sorry, I was going to say, just to wrap up, if you are interested in this on YouTube, there is a lot of information as to how to go about editing Wikidata. So you don't, I've gone very quickly over and very lightly over how to go about it. If you're interested in finding out more, YouTube is definitely your friend.
Yeah, there are good reasons to think about things like Wikidata and Wikipedia and others. They certainly, like for example, Wikipedia, the more languages they're in, they definitely drive site traffic to your resources.
Yeah.
So getting those information into these resources does increase their discoverability.
Yeah.
And David briefly showed all of you the Zenodo link from Bionomia, the publishing your stuff to Zenodo. I mean, there's no question that already people have benefited because they have done this, and then their data sets have been used and downloaded in ways that it would have been not impossible, but difficult to do definitively other ways. Say what? I heard something. Siobhan, thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
It was amazing. So, oh no, y'all, thank you. Yay, Siobhan did it. However you want to clap. Different ways to clap in Zoom.